There is a book so quiet, so emotionally still, that it feels louder than most dramatic novels. It has almost no plot twists, no passionate speeches, no heroic transformation. Yet it changed modern literature forever. This is The Stranger by Albert Camus, a book that doesn't shout but whispers, a story where the silence is more unsettling than any loud drama. It redefined how we think about meaning, identity, justice, and emotional truth. Critics call it the most hauntingly emotionless book ever written. From its detached narrator to its strange courtroom trial, everything about it feels unusual and deeply symbolic. Today, we're counting down the 20 weirdest facts about The Stranger. Fact 20. Emotionless funeral scene. One of the strangest aspects of The Stranger appears right at the beginning. Meursault, the main character, attends his mother's funeral but displays almost no emotion. He doesn't cry, doesn't reflect on her life, and doesn't even know her exact age. Instead, he is mostly bothered by the heat, the long walk, and how tired he feels. This odd focus on physical discomfort rather than emotional loss makes readers instantly uncomfortable. The funeral, an emotionally heavy moment for most people, is cold, distant, and strangely quiet. Even weirder, Meursault goes home, makes dinner, sleeps, and the next day goes to the beach and starts a casual relationship. This emotional emptiness isn't just a character trait, it's the book's statement. Camus wanted to show that life doesn't always follow emotional expectations. Society expects sadness at funerals, joy at celebrations, and regret after mistakes. But Meursault doesn't fake emotions for the sake of appearance. His honesty feels more shocking than any dramatic reaction. This funeral scene sets the entire tone for the novel, emotionless, honest, and hauntingly calm. Fact 19. Sun as witness. In most novels, nature is a background setting, but in The Stranger, the sun feels almost like a character. It is constantly present, especially during emotionally intense moments, yet it never comforts Meursault. Instead, it bothers him, blinds him, overheats him, and even makes some of his decisions feel irrational. During his mother's funeral, he blames the sun for his exhaustion. Later, during the beach confrontation, the sun becomes even stronger, almost aggressive. What's strange is that Meursault seems more emotionally affected by heat and sunlight than by any human experience. He often describes sweat, glare, and exhaustion, instead of feelings like sadness or guilt. Some scholars say Camus used the sun to represent reality, the harsh, uncomfortable truth of existence. Others claim it's a symbol of responsibility, judgment, or even fate. But what's truly weird is that the sun almost becomes Meursault's judge. When he makes his life-changing decision, it's the sun, not emotion, that pushes him over the edge. Fact 18. Trial without crime focus. Here's something bizarre. During Meursault's trial, the courtroom barely discusses the actual crime. Instead, the lawyers and judges focus more on his personality, specifically the fact that he didn't cry at his mother's funeral. They argue that a person who doesn't show grief must be morally dangerous. They present his emotional detachment as evidence against his character. This is not a normal criminal trial. Instead of focusing on laws and facts, the courtroom becomes a judgment of emotions, morality, and social expectations. Meursault isn't being punished just for what he did, but for who he is, or rather, for what society believes he should feel. The weirdest moment comes when the prosecutor says that Meursault's failure to cry at his mother's funeral is worse than the crime itself. This is where Camus makes a powerful point. Society doesn't just want justice. It wants emotional conformity. It wants people to pretend to care, even if they don't. Meursault's real crime, according to society, is honesty. Fact 17. Existential courtroom drama. The courtroom in The Stranger isn't just a legal setting. It becomes a stage for philosophy. Instead of debating laws, the trial becomes a debate about life, morality, and existence. The lawyers talk more about character than evidence. The priest speaks more about the meaning of life than justice. Meursault, meanwhile, remains emotionally quiet, yet mentally awake. The courtroom atmosphere becomes surreal. It's as if Meursault has entered a world where people don't care about facts, but about whether he fits into society's expectations. They want him to feel guilt, regret, and sympathy. But he doesn't pretend. The courtroom represents society's need for emotional performance. Even stranger, Meursault's indifference confuses everyone. His silence makes lawyers uncomfortable. He is judged not just for his actions, but for failing to show expected emotions. The trial becomes less about law and more about humanity's fear of emotional honesty. In Camus' world, truth is not always welcome. Fact 16. Silent character. Mindset. One of the strangest elements of Meursault is how quietly observant he is. Throughout the novel, he barely expresses emotions, yet he notices everything. He watches light, shadows, faces, movements, and even the smallest shifts in air and sound. He doesn't emotionally react, but he is deeply aware. This creates an unusual contrast. He is emotionally empty, yet intensely conscious. Meursault describes things with photographic detail, but never with emotional judgment. He doesn't call anything beautiful, sad, or happy. He simply describes it. Some readers say he's cold. Others say he might be one of the most honest narrators in literature. He doesn't pretend. He doesn't add feelings where none exist. He tells life as it is, not as society expects. This strange, almost robotic perspective makes the stranger feel hauntingly real and also deeply unsettling. Meursault's silence is not emptiness, it is raw honesty. Fact 15. Language translation. Oddity. Here's a weird literary mystery. The stranger has one of the most debated first sentences in translation history. The French original says, "Aujourd'hui, maman est morte." It translates directly to, "Today, mother died." But most English versions say, "Mother died today." Sounds similar, right? But language experts say this tiny difference changes everything. The original French structure begins with today, placing time first, emphasizing emotional immediacy. The English version starts with mother, making it sound distant and less personal. Some translators argue that maman should be translated as mom or mama, a more emotional term. But Camus chose an emotionally neutral tone intentionally. His style avoided sentimentality. Translation debates over this single sentence have lasted more than 70 years. Some say English versions fail to capture Meursault's emotional detachment accurately. Others say the ambiguity is the point. The emotional distance is meant to be felt before it is understood. Fact 14. Philosophy, not novel. Many readers think The Stranger is a simple, short story. But in reality, it wasn't even meant to be just a novel. Camus actually said it was a philosophical case study in the form of fiction. It was designed to demonstrate his philosophy of the absurd, the idea that life has no built-in meaning, and humans keep searching for one anyway. Camus used Meursault as the embodiment of this philosophy. Meursault doesn't pretend life has deeper meaning. He accepts the world as it is, without forcing any artificial purpose onto it. What's strange is that while many books try to teach lessons or morals, The Stranger doesn't offer any. It simply presents existence, raw, unfiltered, and unanswered. Camus even said, "The Stranger is not a moral story. It is a description of a man who refuses to lie." That refusal to pretend emotions or meaning makes Meursault both unsettling and strangely honest. Fact 13. Emotionally honest character. In a world full of socially expected emotions, Meursault stands as one of literature's most emotionally honest characters. He doesn't fake grief at funerals, doesn't pretend to love when he doesn't, and never lies to make others comfortable. His honesty feels strange, because society often rewards polite emotional acting more than genuine truth. When Marie asks if he loves her, he says, "It doesn't mean anything, but I don't think so. It's not rude, it's just honest." When his boss offers a promotion, he says he doesn't care. He doesn't pretend to be driven by ambition. Society doesn't punish him for his actions as much as it punishes him for failing to fake. Emotions, this raw honesty, becomes the central strangeness of the novel. Meursault is seen as dangerous, not because of violence, but because he refuses to pretend. His honesty breaks social rules. Fact 12. Heat-induced decision. One of the strangest concepts in the novel is how much the weather influences Meursault. During key events, like the funeral and the confrontation, Meursault repeatedly complains about the heat, sweat, sun, and blinding light. These physical sensations overwhelm him more than emotions do. During the life-changing moment at the beach, the sun becomes unbearable. He describes it as a burning force, pushing him into discomfort and confusion. He reacts not emotionally, but physically. He later says he acted because of the sun. This unusual reasoning creates one of the book's most debated mysteries. Was it emotion, reason, or nature that influenced his actions? Camus wanted to show how physical reality, heat, light, exhaustion, can overpower moral judgment. The sun becomes a silent but powerful presence in Meursault's life, part of nature's quiet, misunderstood force. Fact 11. Unexpected fame. Rise. Strangely enough, The Stranger did not become instantly famous. It initially had mixed reviews. Some people thought it was too emotionless, too quiet, or too simple. But after World War II, the world was emotionally exhausted, morally confused, and searching for meaning. Readers suddenly connected with Camus's philosophy of the absurd. Over time, universities began teaching it, not as literature, but as philosophy. The book became a cultural bridge between storytelling and existential thought. Hollywood filmmakers, modern playwrights, and even psychologists studied Meursault's behavior. What makes this unusual is that the book didn't succeed because of dramatic writing, but because of its honesty. Its emotional silence spoke loudly to a post-war world. A quiet book became a loud message. Fact 10. Multiple cinema attempts. Many filmmakers tried to adapt The Stranger into movies, but almost all adaptations received mixed reactions. Why? Because Meursault's character is almost impossible to portray on screen. In film, characters must show expressions, emotions, reactions. But Meursault shows none. His power lies in silence and internal thought. Even talented actors struggled to play someone emotionally blank. Directors tried to show his indifference using facial expressions, empty gazes, or a calm voice, but it never fully captured the quiet psychological complexity of the book. The strangest failure was that some adaptations made Meursault emotional, completely opposite of Camus's vision. Meursault's strength is not feeling nothing, it's refusing to fake feeling something. That subtle difference is extremely hard to film. The Stranger remains a better book than movie. Fact 9. Author's own voice. Camus once said that Meursault is the only character who is truly honest in literature. Some scholars believe Meursault may represent Camus himself, not in actions, but in attitude. Like Meursault, Camus believed life has no built-in meaning, and that pretending otherwise is dishonest. Both Camus and Meursault disliked fake emotional performances. They valued truth, even if it was uncomfortable. Camus once wrote, "There is no love of life without despair of life." This reflects Meursault's final awakening. He finds peace not through hope, but through accepting life exactly as it is. However, Camus denied that Meursault was a self-portrait. He said Meursault is not a reflection, but a possibility, a representation of the brutally honest human, stripped of social expectations. That's what makes Meursault so strangely powerful. Fact 8. Absurdism. Philosophy. Core, one of the weirdest things about The Stranger is that it's not simply a story. It is a demonstration of Camus's philosophy called absurdism. Absurdism says life has no fixed meaning, but humans can still choose to live it fully, with honesty, freedom, and acceptance. Meursault is not depressed. He's not hopeless. He simply lives without pretending life must have deeper meaning. He accepts the sun, heat, death, love, and existence without asking why. His trial is society's attempt to force meaning on his life. But Meursault resists. In the end, he finds freedom, not through isolation, but through acceptance. He realizes the world doesn't need to make sense for it to be worth living. That is the heart of the absurd. Fact 7. Philosophy versus religion. In one of the book's most intense scenes, a chaplain visits Meursault and tries to comfort him with religious hope. He tells Meursault that life has meaning, that there is justice beyond this world. But Meursault refuses. He doesn't argue angrily. He simply says he doesn't believe. This makes the chaplain frustrated, not because Meursault is rebellious, but because he is calm. Meursault refuses to lie, even to feel better. He chooses truth over comfort. It's not an attack on religion, it's an exploration of honesty. Camus later explained, "It is easier to die for an idea than to live for one without illusion." Meursault's final strength lies in living without pretending. Fact 6. Final awakening moment. Near the end, something unexpected happens. Meursault experiences a massive emotional awakening, but not from regret, guilt, or fear. Instead, he finds peace in accepting life exactly as it is, loud, bright, chaotic, and indifferent. He looks at life without judgment, without expectations, and finally feels alive. For the first time, he shows passion, not about people, but about existence itself. He realizes that the world's indifference is not cruel, it's simply natural. This final transformation is quiet, but powerful. Fact 5. Courtroom moral judgment. One of the strangest aspects of the trial is how the legal system tries to turn morality into law. Meursault is judged not just for his action, but for his feelings, beliefs, and reactions. Society wants to punish him not only for what he did, but for failing to act the way they expected. He is called cold, dangerous, and even unhuman, not because of physical harm, but because he refuses to fake emotions. Camus uses this trial to question society. Do we punish actions or personalities? Meursault is guilty of emotional honesty, and society doesn't forgive that easily. Fact 4. Sun. As Destiny readers often wonder, why does Meursault blame the sun? In the book, the sun seems to represent something beyond weather. It symbolizes fate, pressure, and the overwhelming nature of reality. During key moments, like the funeral and the confrontation, the sun becomes stronger, almost controlling his decisions. He feels blinded, dizzy, and powerless. Fact 3. Emotionless love story. There is a romantic storyline in The Stranger, but it is one of the strangest love stories in literature. Marie asks Meursault if he loves her. He says, "It doesn't mean anything, but I don't think so." Yet he agrees to marry her. He feels attraction, comfort, and companionship, but not emotional love, but he doesn't lie about it either. This makes their relationship strangely honest. Camus uses this to explore a realist idea that feelings don't always fit into labels like love or hate. Some feelings simply exist, without definitions. Fact 2. Title, meaning mystery. Why is it called The Stranger? Who is the stranger? Some say Meursault is a stranger to society, someone who does not fit expected emotional behaviors. Others say he is a stranger to himself, someone who doesn't understand his own feelings. Another theory suggests that life itself is strange. We are all strangers in a world without clear meaning. Camus never fully answered the mystery, allowing the title to remain open, strange, and deeply symbolic. Fact 1. Most honest character. Meursault is one of the weirdest, yet most honest characters in modern literature. He doesn't pretend, doesn't lie, doesn't follow emotional scripts. He accepts life without illusion. Camus once said, "Meursault is not a model to follow, but a mirror to look into." He doesn't teach us how to live. He simply shows what life looks like when we stop pretending. That honesty made him one of the most unsettling, powerful, and strangely unforgettable literary characters of all time. Closing remarks. The Stranger remains one of literature's most quietly disturbing and philosophically profound works. It does not shock with chaos nor comfort with resolution. Instead, it unsettles through silence, simplicity, and emotional honesty. The novel doesn't tell you what to feel, it asks you why you feel it. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about existence, meaning, society, and what it really means to be human. Whether you find it brilliant, unsettling, or strangely beautiful, its refusal to offer easy answers is exactly what makes it unforgettable. It is not a novel that entertains. It is a novel that confronts. If you've watched this entire video, you've explored 20 of the most unusual, haunting, and thought-provoking facts about this philosophical masterpiece. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of literature's most quietly powerful works, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content exploring the strange intersections between literature, philosophy, and the human experience.